Any other questions before we? Because I do want to show you kind of what I'm talking about in some of these folders. Because like I said, I have a lot of files that I haven't fixed yet, okay? Here, I'll just show you on my desktop. My desktop, I have one, if you can find it here, family history. That's my main folder for all my genealogy documents and stuff. And then if you look below it, there's family photo collection. And like I said, I keep my photos separately just because I have so many photos and I have them sorted differently than I do these other documents. My photo collection, I'll open that up because I need to do it with this too. You can see I have one that's Black Hills history because I have some that are just like pictures of like early Sturgis. They come from my family collection, but there's nobody in them. It's just pictures of Junction Avenue or the water retainment ponds up the canyon and that kind of stuff, you know. Old postcards, picture postcards of the town, that kind of stuff. So I have a separate folder, I just put it in there. But then I have a folder, and these are my photos of course, for each of these family groups, okay? And if I go into one of them, this is my ancestor that came from Germany. I don't have pictures of his family, of his parents, I mean. Otherwise I would start with them. If I had a picture of his parents, that would be my first folder. But I have pictures of him and a couple of his siblings. But if you open up his folder, see, it's kind of complicated. That's why I haven't merged my photos yet with the other. I have all of his children, and then pictures of him or pictures of his family. So like, for instance, this one right here. That's him and all that's him and his wife and their kids. I have it in his folder, even though all the kids appear in it as well. If I do a larger group, like a family, I do it by the head of the family. That's whose folder I put it in.
So when you have old pictures like that, how do you verify who's who?
I know who's who just because I have photos individually of each of these people, and I knew who they were. You know, that's my grandpa in the very front. You know, he used to say, "Oh, that's my brother Herbert, and that's my brother Frederick." You know, that kind of thing. So I know those things, but this one, you can go into the metadata and do the image.
Do you have the metadata on that?
I don't think I do on most of them.
No, that's fine.
But I'll open up the metadata for you. You just go down here, go into your settings. Nope, I don't think I did that right. It should be properties, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Why is it not? Oh, wait.
It's raining.
No, it's not. I didn't do the right folder.
Somebody's.
Let me see here. Metadata should be in. Huh. It's not finding it there. Here, I'll do it this way, okay?
Yeah,
if I right-click on
right
this
click.
image, right here. Come on, Mark. My computer's really going slow. You come down here, you can see properties. You see that?
There you go, yeah.
Open the properties for that image. Now it's going to tell you things like
General information.
when you first created that particular image, when you last modified it, those kind of things. But if you look around across the top, see I have it saved as a TIFF file, and it's 2.1 megabytes, which is a fairly good size. That's a pretty good size file. If I wanted to save it to put online, I would save it back as a JPEG and use it that way. But I'd save your original TIFF file. Don't ever mess with your first file you have of an image. Make a copy and never mess with it. Don't change it, don't edit it, don't anything.
Not even the copy.
Save a copy and edit that.
Edit the copy, yeah.
Yeah, edit the copy. And usually what I do then is I have the naming protocol. See, I have here FCCR, that's his initials, and FAM. I haven't redone these yet to naming protocol. But that's the protocol I used to do. And it works for me. So I have him, he's with his family, and it's the number 2 folder you'll see over here, FCCR and FAM1. That was an earlier photo of him with his family. So I named things in a logical way. What I would do now, if I decided to edit that, and try to change the lighting or, you know, edit somebody out or, you know, whatever, I would take the same name and then put edit behind it, or E, or edit it, or, you know, whatever you decide, just so that you know this is a copy. And I can mess with this one. Don't mess with your original. Always keep that. Once you have a photo image, save it. And always do a save as and do a copy before you start messing with it.
And then go
Okay,
here.
but if you go up to the top here, there's other tabs. There's security. It just tells who's allowed to access it. There's the details. This is where you can put things in your metadata. You can title the image, describe it. Oops. Here, why am I looking up there? I can look right down here. You can put a title in here that's more extensive than what you did. I can put Frederick Charles Christopher Rambow and family, you know, or whatever. Then you can say what the subject of the image is. It might be family history, photos of the Rambow family, whatever. These are where you put tags. You can tag every person in that photo. So what you would do is type in Frederick C. Rambow, Amanda Davis Rambow, that's his wife, and just label every person that's in that image. And that's where you do what we were talking about. You know, if you know who all is in an image, but it's not like written on the back or something, you go in here and you add it there. Then you can add comments. If you want to say this image was taken while the family were together for so-and-so's funeral, you know, whatever. You can add all that stuff in there. It was taken in Lawrence, Kansas, or wherever you had the image taken. The authors, that's really supposed to be, there's so much stuff in here that's related to the image itself, to like the photographer and the white level of the photograph and all that kind of stuff. And I don't care about that stuff.
The description of.
But the authors might be like, we have a lot of photos from the Bob Lee photo collection that I've been scanning.
Oh,
I always
sure.
put Robert E. Lee in here
Right.
as the author of the photo. The date it was taken, if you know the exact date that was taken, sometimes you can put it in here. If you know what program was used to do the photo, when you got the photo, who you got it from, if there's a copyright on the photo. I usually just put who I got it from, even if it's not copywritten. That way I can track, okay, that's right, these were the photos I got from so-and-so. I need a better copy of it, so I'm gonna contact them again and see if I can either have them scan it for me or borrow it again.
So where do you find metadata?
Right here. You go onto the image and right-click with your right button, and you go into properties, right here. There you go.
And it's under details.
Yep, and then there's so many more things. Look at this, vertical resolution, bit depth, compression, all that photography stuff that, I'm not a photographer, I really don't care. What kind of camera was used, what kind of lens was used, what your f-stop was, exposure time, all that stuff.
Who knew?
So
Yeah.
you can add all that stuff, but I don't know anything about that. I really just use this box right here,
Yeah.
with these items.
So say that again, you right-click on the photo,
Yep,
Go to
go into properties, and this will pop up. This is the
And then-
properties.
oh, that's the property.
Yep, and it'll open in general. But you go under details tab, and that's where you find all this. Then there's a previous versions, and you have to type in if you want to list previous versions of stuff. But yeah, you close that then. After you type things in, hit OK. Well, it'll ask you once you type things to apply. You apply the changes and then close it. And forever, that stuff is going to be tied to this photo. So if you make a copy of it, if you send it to somebody and they don't know who's in it, just tell them look in the properties. Go into the metadata and it'll tell you.
Which properties, and then it opens in general, and you go to what?
Details.
Details.
Details, okay.
And you can add any information in there that you want. Now, if you do have a photo that has writing on the back, I would suggest scanning the front, scanning the back, and putting the name plus front or F or something in there, and then the same name for the photo with a B or back or something written there, so that you know that's the same photo, the front and the back. But if you don't, like, none of these photos had that written on the back. So I need to go into them with my metadata and start saving that. Because I can tell you who everybody is in that photograph right there.
And you probably need to do that, Mark, because somebody's gonna look at these photos someday and say, Mark didn't do this.
I know, that's what I said. Do as I say, not as I do.
I typed it just like you did Amanda Davis there, I just typed it below there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I have her initials here, Amanda Davis Rambow, number 2, and then there's probably a, yep, over there. And you'll see these ones are images I stole from this one. So I had
Oh,
a
sure.
portrait image of them when they were younger. I only
Sure.
had pictures of them individually when they were older. And I wanted pictures of them when they were younger. So I went into this image, I opened it up, zoomed in on their faces, and then saved a separate copy. And
Makes sense.
listed just them. And I've done that a lot with different people that I don't have very many,
Right,
you know,
right.
good portrait images of them.
You can spend your
But see,
life
that's the
storing-
same image there and there. And then I use those for their profile images in Ancestry and stuff. So, that's how I do photos. Now, photo collection is one. Oh, I still have metadata open on that one. And then my family history folder is the other one. And again, I have things listed by surname. You'll notice I have a lot of things that I download that are like digital copies of books that are like from the New England Genealogical Society and stuff that have just like lists of families and stuff. I put that kind of stuff in research materials. I don't want to go clear down here and find it logged between Rambow and Rogers. I want it separate so that if I'm looking for my research materials, it's there. So I put a 1 in front of it. And like we were saying, the computer sorts by numbers and then letters. So a 1 is going to pop to the very top of the list. A 2, if I did another 2 period space in front of something, it would be right below it. And then I have all my surnames. And some of these I have gone in and redone. Let's look at this one. You see I have everything by their last name, first name, the document type, and then a date. That's what I chose to do for mine. So you can see, well, there's a couple of them. Like this one I messed up. I have 1830 and then Stansted land petition. I should move that date to the end because that's what I chose to do with the others. Some of them don't have a date. See, there's state census and US census. Those kind of things. So there's one of them that here's another thing. You know, we've talked about spelling of last names before and how there was no set spelling. And I find 3 different spellings in the same document sometimes for somebody's surname or first name. I pick a name that I want to know them as, and that's how I spell it. And that's how I keep all their documents so that I'm able to say, those are all together. Because sometimes it's Aldrich, sometimes they write it as, you know, some census taker or somebody wrote it as Oldrich or Aldridge or whatever. And so I don't want to search through and look, oh, is it under Aldrich or Aldridge or Oldrich? I just list them all the same. And then in the original document, it's still going to have, you know, that different spelling. Yeah.
The one thing I was just thinking, and then in the metadata,
Yeah.
is either a tag or in the comments,
Mm-hmm.
you could put the other spellings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Then it would still be searchable.
Yep, you could tag it in the metadata under different.
Yes, and then it would still be searchable under
Yep.
those other names.
Yep. The one exception I did for my ancestor, Olive Aldrich, she was Aldrich Town, and once she got married, I listed it as Aldrich Town, Olive, where usually she's just Aldrich Olive. The one exception where I didn't put her name, because I don't know it's actually her, I found an 1861 census where it's Olive Aldridge, and I don't know if it's her for sure.
Wow.
I can't find her in that period of time. I'm hoping it's her, but I don't want to list it as Aldrich and then later come back and tell myself, oh, well, that's listed as her, it must be her, you know, and forget why I did it that way. So that's an exception I made when I was doing her name. Once they're married, I usually put their maiden name and married name, just so that you can see, okay, this is her name now, but still recognizing her maiden name. The other thing I do usually, and this is an exception where it's Aldrich Town for her death certificate, I might have 2 copies of that. I would put that in the town file. Once somebody gets married, a woman gets married, not because I'm trying to slight them as, you know, history so often does. I put them in the file for their husband, just so that they're together. And so if there's pictures of them with their children and stuff, they're always in the same folder. So once they get married, I list them. Hers, all her other documents after she gets married are in the town folder.
So, do you ever put them in both sometimes?
I think I did that with that one, yeah,
Okay.
her death
Right.
certificate.
Like, I can see it,
Mhm.
advantage to putting them in both.
Yeah, there are some advantages to that. But knowing that, okay, once they're married, they now are in their married name, you know, that's, as long as you know you're doing that, then you can always find it.
What do you do if, like, say, for example, Aldrich Town was widowed and remarried? Then what do you do?
You can string those things out if you want. You really can.
But I mean.
And I
what-
have another one that did that.
What folder would you put her in?
I keep her in the married name that's relative to your family.
Okay.
I have an ancestor, let me find her, see what I did there. I don't even know what I did there. Davis, okay. You see, I haven't done this one yet. Ah,
Oh, boy.
let's see, here's Margaret Davis Anderson. She was Margaret Spivey Davis, and then remarried after my ancestor, James Davis, died. She married an Anderson.
Okay.
So she's listed as Margaret Anderson on her headstone. I would probably, when I redo this, write Spivey, Davis, Anderson, space, Margaret, just so I can track, and then death certificate. Because I don't want to go looking for her in a husband's folder that I don't know anything about.
Okay.
I want to look for her in the folder where she and her husband and their kids that I'm related to exist. So, but she still would be under the S's in there because she'd be her maiden name.
Well, if you're related to her, then you'd be related to both families after she got married.
She didn't have more kids.
Oh.
She just remarried. She was older, you know, she was.
But I mean, if somebody was, you know.
Right, yeah.
then
That's
how
true.
would you do it if?
Oh, that's a good
'Cause you
question.
do
I have never
both
faced that.
families.
That's a really good question. Let me know how you solve it.
Yeah, there you go.
Thinking of this, I think of my grandfather that was adopted by his sister. He was born Ralph Foster, but when he was adopted, he became Ralph Roby. Because Foster was, or Roby was his sister's married name.
Oh,
Yeah, that one, since you know him as Foster,
Uh-huh,
I would list him under Foster, Roby,
yeah.
underscore
So
first
do you
name.
hyphenate that or
No,
just underscore?
And no parentheses.
no parentheses, nope,
Seems like that would work.
because that's gonna mess up the search
Yeah.
stuff and the way it sorts it,
Yeah.
so.
Mess.
I was trying to find one, I have another that remarried and I can't remember who it was, so. I just did this one today, so I have Peter Brown here, and you see everything's by his last name, first name, and then what the document is, the document or image or whatever, like this one right here. Here's his probate, and then the date of the probate, 1633, November 11th. So if I'm ever looking, I can say, oh, do I have a probate for Peter Brown? I go to the Brown folder, I find Peter, and all these are the documents I have for him. If there were more people in that family, there'd be other things. And you go, okay, now look for probate as the next item in
sure, oh, sure.
the tag. So,
Just out of curiosity, you've got the one image there that says Brown Peter tankard image.
yeah,
What is a tankard?
it's believed to actually be the
Oh,
real
okay.
tankard he had after he came over on the Mayflower.
Okay.
Yeah,
What is a tankard?
but it's a drinking vessel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
It's a wooden tanker that still
Wooden mug.
exists,
Okay.
and it's been attributed to him as
So it
his.
actually held liquid.
Yep,
Wow.
It had to, or else it would leak.
Yeah, you would, yeah.
It would swallow.
and I don't
liquid, right?
save stuff like this very often, but I did save a picture here of the Mayflower. It's a
Wow.
popular painting from the 19th century,
Yeah.
you know, and
But it does have a connection to your.
it
family
does. I
history.
usually don't save stuff like that, though, that's painted a long time after, and
Yeah,
it's supposed to represent some historic event, because, you know, in the 19th century, the Pilgrims were suddenly reborn as these, you know, mythical ancestors who were pure,
Yeah.
perfect, and, you know, came here for religious freedom and all this stuff, when none of that's true, so. I mean, they came for their religious freedom, but nobody else's. So, yeah, I've done some of these. You see here, I have separate folders I've made, just because I have so many newspapers that I've looked up and found for this family, that I put them in a separate thing, and I have them listed by date. Because that's how I do
You put them,
newspapers.
you put it in a separate folder?
I
all
just,
these
it's
different
still in the
things?
family folder, but I made a separate, I did a separate folder in that one, so that I could put the newspapers separately, because I haven't gone through them yet, and incorporated them into their story, into their
Oh, okay.
timeline, that kind of stuff.
You know, one thing I just thought of, that you might, could be this, see the two different icons there? There's
Yeah.
images and then there's PDFs.
Yep,
Double click on your first image.
see, that is a JPEG, and this one is a Word document. Yep,
Click on your first image.
this one,
Yeah, double click on it.
okay.
Images you can scan through now. So go to, hit your right arrow.
Oh,
key.
yeah. So
Images
it's
you
only
can
gonna
see.
do this for images that are in that folder, but you can flip through all the images that are in that
But
folder.
it won't bring up the documents. It won't bring up the PDF for the Word. It'll only bring up the
It'll only bring
images.
up image folder.
But
files.
images you can scan
So
through
it'll
like
bring up
this.
JPEGs and TIFFs and,
And if you look, your title is at the top of the screen there.
yeah, right here. Kate, you senior, military record of soldiers in Portland, New York. So, yep, you're right. And then if you want to, you can go in here too and do your metadata. This is a Word document, but I can still go in and do metadata on it. I can still go in and say, you know, details about the subject of the
I
Word
think the
document.
only file format you can do metadata data on is a BMP.
I've never tried it with a JPEG, but I'm sure it's there.
It should be there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, oh, look.
I already have a lot in here on this one.
Is that metadata though?
Yeah,
yeah.
but look at it, already shows the name that I renamed it and everything.
Oh, sure.
It's already set, and which laptop it came from and everything.
It isn't quite as detailed. though.
Yeah, no, you can't really do on a JPEG,
So that would be one way.
That's a
to use
PDF,
it.
not a JPEG.
or PDF. This is a
That's TIFF.
TIFF file.
Yeah, tips you can.
See, and you can still go in here. This one I do have metadata on. Look at that. I did put some metadata in this one. Just where it's where I got the document from. This is the size, of course, of the image. So, yeah, and I went through and redid this one. So, and this is a good example of why you need a good naming thing. So, here's my original ancestor, came from Ireland, Hugh Caton Sr. And all his documents end up together. But if you go down further, here are, and I just started renaming these, so I kind of messed things up. Here's Hugh Jr., who was my second great-grandfather. Then you go up here and here's Hugh W., who was my third great-grandfather. And then you go up here and you find Hugh, where is he? Hugh T. Yep, right here. That was my grand-uncle. And his son, Hugh A., and his grandson, Hugh B.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you need to make sure you're putting that kind of detail down. You know, especially
Yeah, that
if
makes
you know
sense.
you have a family that has a name that just keeps going and going and going
Yeah,
and going.
then and they're differentiated by their middle initial.
Middle initial, yeah.
Okay, all right.
See, we've always
Not
only
for
ever
second,
known,
third, fourth.
we've always only ever known Hugh Jr., that I've listed as Hugh Jr. as Hugh J. He was always listed on every family document as Hugh J. And we always thought, oh, his name must be James or something. But then it just, you couldn't find that anywhere. I found one census where he's listed as Hugh Jr. when he was young.
Oh, sure.
And I thought, wow, that makes sense. His dad was Hugh and he's Hugh. So they put J in there as the junior. And so I always list him as junior. I don't know for a fact that's what the J stands for. It could be Joseph or James or something, but I go with junior. So again, make it work for you. You can see here. And then down here too, here's my second great grandmother. Her maiden name was Sweet. And so I have her listed in her married folder under her spouse as Sweet Caton. So I still am representing her maiden name. And then her first name and middle initial. I've done a lot of these. I started doing these biographical timelines and everybody, and they're really fun, but they're a lot of work. So everywhere I find a reference to her, whether it's a census or whether it's something that was mentioned in her obituary, that kind of stuff, that in 1862 they moved back, you know, that kind of thing.
So where do you store that?
It's a Word document.
It's a Word document, and I keep it in that family's folder, yep. Let's see, I have it going all the way up till she dies in Sturgis in 1910. Houston home in Sturgis, so. And then I list her obituary. Anyway, those are fun. I like doing those, but they take a lot of time, and doing one for everybody is my ultimate goal. But good luck with that. I can't even find time to rename stuff.
And
Anyway.
And you keep finding more stuff.
I keep finding more stuff. I'm finding it faster. Oh, let me show you a case of that.
Okay, so when you're looking that up, I gotta say, your whole no parentheses, commas, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just looked up a relative on newspapers.com, Hugh Crawford, and I'd looked him up before, and I'd gotten a few things, and he was in Deadwood. Anyway, I just did the Hugh _ Crawford, and now I've got a list of
More things.
newspaper articles that are just, yeah, I haven't even gotten.
Oh, using
Wow.
the underscore, that's
Just
good
the
to know.
underscore in there.
See, I usually
Yeah,
leave a
just-
space. I just do space when I'm doing a search like that.
Well, so do
Well,
I
I'll try with the
usually.
underscore now.
And
That's a good idea.
that's what I've always done, is just leave a space, and then sometimes it comes up with Hugh, and sometimes it comes up with Crawford, and,
Mm-hmm.
but this time I did the underscore, and it made a big, big difference.
Really? That's
That
really
is
good
good
to
to
know.
know.
I didn't know
Just to
that.
know.
That's fantastic.
So now I'm excited to go back and try it with others.
Because
Right,
it does
oh, yeah.
make a difference
Oh,
in
yeah.
how
Oh,
it searches,
yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Just like it makes a difference in how it files things.
Because,
Yeah.
because when you do put that underscore in there, it does make it
All one word.
all one word,
Mhm.
technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's
does.
true. Yeah, it's all runs together then. So,
The
anyway.
underscore does differentiate between the.
That's how I do these folders and files, and you can see I have them for each
You know what?
name.
You might reverse the first name and the last name
Crawford Hugh, yeah,
and
Mhm.
With
put
an
the
underscore.
underscore in there.
Yeah.
Because somebody may have labeled it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. The only, is there any questions on this? Anybody have comments? Go ahead.
Okay, and you know, I talked a little bit about this beforehand.
unbelievable, right?
Do you have a folder
Yes.
of images
Oh,
that you don't know who they are?
absolutely. I have a couple of them. So let me go back to my other folder I was in that was the family photo collection.
Because that's what
Okay,
I don't know what to do with.
For
What do I do
instance,
with photos that I don't have?
with these family photos, for the Caton family, when I got these after my grandmother passed away, I inherited giant cardboard boxes heaped with photos. Some of them 10 types. Oh,
So-
amazing day.
So when you scanned them.
Not that her the day she died, the day I got those.
Right.
You know.
When you scan them, you put them onto a scanner then?
Yep.
Is that what you
I
did
use
with them?
flat
Okay.
scanner. Yep. So in here, I have an unknown photos. Because I have pictures here, I have no idea who these people are. Some of them I've since identified, and I've, like here, this Homer Brantley. I know that's who this is because I found a reference to that photo under the name of his dad, who was a photographer down on the Rosebud when these guys were all on the Rosebud. So he was friends with them, you know, and he gave him pictures of his kid. And I found this image of Homer Bradley on that guy's website
Oh my goodness.
for his photography, which is, it's an amazing, I mean, you can tell that that's an old time photography, because there's just, it's liquid. There's no dots, of course, I have a digital copy here, so it does pixelate once it gets big enough, but
Is that a scar on his forehead?
no, it's a mess on the
Yeah.
original.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that one I've identified, but there's a lot of them here, like this one. That's a tintype, and I don't know who these people are. I mean, I can go back and I can
Oh, wait,
identify,
Mom,
it's a Civil War era because you can tell by the clothing they're wearing and stuff, and the way they wear their hair, but
But if you wait long enough, they'll come out with some software that'll tell you exactly who they
you
are.
can do that now. Facial recognition.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I do it on my phone. All my images on my phone, I can find an image of somebody, like my mom, and I can ask it to find all the pictures of my mom. And it'll
Doesn't
find
always work,
pictures
though,
going back to when
because
she was a kid.
It will, yeah, it will identify others,
Yeah.
yes.
It'll find pictures in my files of when she was a kid and stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Does it-
Technology is really doing some cool
Does
stuff.
it ever find somebody that isn't her?
But then it asks you, is this correct? And you can say yes or no.
Sure.
And then it'll keep rethinking all of that stuff as, it'll take that into account as it searches the next
So
one.
if you have a picture that you don't know who it is,
Look at this,
it's still
what a beautiful
advantageous
image.
to scan it, make it a digital copy, and
Yes.
then drop it in an unknown folder.
Yes, and that is not John Wilkes Booth, but I don't know who it is.
It was sure.
So you said this relative was a photographer down there?
No,
Oh.
he wasn't related to us.
Oh, okay.
He was a photographer down there, and I do have photographs of our family that he took.
Oh, okay.
But we
Oh,
have
sure.
photographs of his kids, so they must have been one of those family friends. Hey, here's a picture of my kid. I mean, we all do that, right?
Yeah.
So,
They
Okay.
didn't want to go back.
but now I go back, I know, okay, this Bradley was a photographer down there. I can go and search for his photos online and find online images that he took and look through them for my ancestor.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So,
cool.
you know, I mean, you gotta look for every clue. This
Yeah,
is a
there's-
beautiful
on,
photo, I mean, look at this
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
On
She's got this
Facebook.
beautiful necklace and her brooch and everything. Have no idea who that is.
Hairstyle.
No idea.
noticing their style.
And her, on the other
She
hand,
looks angry.
she looks angry and
Don't take my picture.
Speaking of angry looks.
I did find out who this is. This one I have since identified and saved it. I need to change the title here, but that's my great-grandfather when he was an infant. Yeah, they put all babies in dresses until they were like 2 in those days, so.
Speaking of grumpy ancestor photographs, I've got a set from my, I don't remember how many grades back, of the husband and wife. And he looks like Santa Claus without a beard, just jolly and happy and everything. And his wife has just got this sour, just grumpy looking. Well, the stories are that yes, he was jolly, but so was she.
Oh,
She
really?
was a very, very happy person too. And she liked taking care of the small children. She was the one in the family that could keep them quiet.
Yeah, she just had to look at it.
She had
there you
a little
The
bottle
look.
in her apron pocket
Oh.
that she would give them a little bit to
Oh,
quiet them
little
that's
down.
bit.
like doing a dog.
Maybe she wasn't angry, she was hungover. But yeah, I do have this, and there's amazing photos in here, but I have
Oh,
no
yeah.
idea who they are. This one, I think, is probably my grandmother's 2 older sisters when they were still down on the Rosebud.
Wow.
But I don't know. This is somebody that probably graduated high school with my grandmother in Sturgis, because you see
about
here,
that age.
it says greetings. Does that say greetings? No, something, Sturgis, South
Sturgis.
Dakota. It's probably the name of the photographer. Anyway, so it's like high school graduation photo, but my grandmother graduated in 1927, so this could be around that time. So, look at that, Sioux Falls, Dakota Territory. We can definitely date that.
Mark,
I can go back and look for that photographer.
I think we've got the 1927 yearbook.
I don't know, what he had is 27, didn't they?
27.
I need to look at that. Because I have kind of her memory book that she wrote everything in and keep track of everything her senior year. Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, here's Madison, South Dakota. Again, you can date it, but who knows who these people are. Some of them are very familiar, and I probably could go back. I mean, he has a very distinct look. I can go back and match him with later photos from
You look
people I
scared.
do know. But again, it takes time to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I do actually have that. I also have an unknown photos for just general, because I don't know which family group they belong to. So, I think that one is in,
My cousin brought
yeah, here's
his,
unknown.
his
These ones I don't
grandmother's
know.
Bible. It has these family pictures in it.
Oh, wow.
I have no idea. You know, we even took them out,
Tried to look on the back,
Nothing on the
everything.
back. Nothing on
Yikes.
the back.
Yeah, the only reason I asked
Look at
Mark
this
is
guy.
yesterday I was going through a box and a crate of old photos, and I would bet 95% of them I have no idea. That's full, it's
Hi.
full.
I just wanted to let Lee know I was going to lunch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that are just frustrating.
It was, oh, I got done with it, it's like,
So what I've done, once or twice, and I need to do this more. Again, I have all of these things saved, they're on my cloud, right? I can use my cell phone and open them up in my gallery there. And your gallery on your cell phone allows for that facial recognition. So if I know who somebody is,
how much phone do you have?
it's a Samsung.
Okay, so you have a separate app for that?
No. Just in my gallery,
So that's an
I can
Android.
search by image in my gallery.
Okay, I
So-
have to check into that.
I'm not gonna be able to figure out how to do it
Or
right
is
now.
it
But
something that Samsung has?
If you
or
go
is-
in and you have all your photos sorted in something like that, you can select one of the photos of the person that you recognize
Okay.
and then search for facial recognition. And it'll pull up possible recognitions or possible options, and then you kind of have to look at it and say, oh, I don't know if that's the right guy, that's his brother, you know, that kind of thing. So, this guy really intrigues me. You know,
Yeah, it really does.
Kind of
That's
a
a
Buffalo
cool
Bill
photo.
kind of dude.
Look at the detail on that jacket.
Jackets,
Yeah.
belts.
That is,
And he has even the tie is beaded.
is that from your wife's?
No, this is from my, this also is in my grandmother's stuff, but I think it comes from the town side of the family. Because Watsontown, my ancestor, he was a judge in Valentine. But
Right.
prior to that, he came into Nebraska in the late 1860s. And it's said that he and Buffalo Bill ran the first herd of cattle in
okay,
a section
there you
of
go.
Nebraska and stuff. And I'm thinking, boy, I wonder if this guy's from that Buffalo Bill kind of
He
school.
looks like Wild West
Yeah.
show
absolutely.
type.
Right, yeah.
It's almost too made up to be just
Yeah.
everyday wear.
Yeah, with
Oh, right,
the
it's
the
like
tie.
a costume or
The
a,
Right.
tie
Well,
gives,
there's some
The
things in the
mustache
brim
is
of this hat
perfect.
that are kind of,
Yeah, the mustache is
Dressy
perfect.
somewhere other.
Look at that thing.
yeah.
And then there's some wear on the original, probably from rubbing against something else.
well, maybe fingerprints taking it on and off.
Could be. There's a couple little splotches. You can clean all that up in a copy of this one.
Right.
Don't clean it up from your original. Look at that coat. I mean, that's authentic
that's a
buckskin.
beautiful coat.
I'd like to see that in color.
Me too. I could try to colorize it. See, in a
To see it
copy,
in person.
a copy of this image and colorize it.
There you go.
So anyway, yeah, don't get rid of your unknowns. Because there's some cool stuff there, and sometimes, like that picture of my great-grandfather when he was a little baby, I figured out finally. Because I found another photo of the family, and he's in that same outfit, sitting in that image. So then I'm like, I've seen that before. I went back and I was able to say, okay,
So
that's.
you just give them a, like, yeah.
I put man 8,
Eight, okay.
man 7, But some of them I just do unknown.
Who is what is man 3? That looks military, is that military? uniform?
Yep, that's military, and it could just be somebody they know. It looks a lot like the guy in the buckskin, to be honest with you,
It does.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so, I
Put
don't
them
know.
side by side.
And it has the same wear spots on it too, from rubbing together. Yeah, do them side by side, that's a good idea. Let me do this.
So it's just.
Let me do this, I'm gonna move this over this way. What do you think? Nose might be the same, mustache
The ears are the
is.
same, look at the ears, yeah, yep,
Yeah, that's it.
wow. I'd
I
say,
think we just figured that out.
yep,
The eyes, I don't know, look at the eyes look blue in this.
The eyes, I'm not
And
sure.
the eyes are
but-
dark in
Yeah,
this.
but you're-
It could be the shadow and the
Yeah,
lights.
because that
Right.
one you're looking at
Because
is
he's-
this angle and this one is
his,
straight
face
on.
I don't know that the
The nose
ears are
is
the
the
same.
same.
The ears aren't the
The
same.
ears are
The
different.
mustache.
The ears are different, because the ear here is more square,
Mhm.
and that one's more rounded.
Yeah. Well, and the side of them too. One kind of has
Yeah.
a little more C-shaped and the other's more
Yeah.
linear.
Yeah.
But for a second there, I thought, that
Maybe
mustache.
they're
might-
brothers.
And really, you
Yeah, it could
look.
be
It's
brothers.
really only the
Yes,
mustache this time.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
but
but
you look.
the
the
chin is
chin and the
different.
mouth
The
looks
news-
the same even without the mustache.
The,
You think
the,
so?
no, the nose
Yeah.
is different.
Maybe it's the angle.
Could be.
Or it could be the way it's
So
done.
now you need to
Touch
put it
right
into one
there.
of those programs that
That's a
will
pretty
allow the
pointy
person
nose.
to move and turn their head and stuff.
Oh, sure, sure.
They have that.
Yeah.
It'll animate your photographs. And they'll be sitting there and suddenly you'll have an ancestor who's sourpuss sitting there. And suddenly in the picture they'll smile and they'll turn their head and look at you and stuff and it's like, it's really weird.
It is.
You've seen those,
I
haven't you?
did one of those with my dad.
Oh, really?
My dad, yeah.
And he just lit up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, they do it with like pictures of Abraham Lincoln and stuff, you know, where suddenly he turns and he starts smiling and looking around. It's like, way too real. It's kind of like watching Harry Potter or something. Pictures move. So, anyway, yeah, I do have folders for those and I do keep them. You know, even if I'm scanning through and I have no idea, I stick it in my unknown folder. And then at some point, I'm gonna identify in another photo who somebody is, and go, wait a minute, that looks familiar.
So, in your unknown folder, because I have an album that's from one side of the family, and I know 2 people I think are in that whole album.
Wow.
So, would I just make one folder, would you think, for just
If you know
unknown
what
doubt
branch of
family?
the family it's from, I'd go to that branch
Okay.
and stick it in there, an unknown
Unknown
folder in that
folder.
branch, just so you can say, okay, I know it's tied to these people somehow, but I don't know how.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, right.
So, yeah, these are the folders, and some of them I've redone. Did I do this 5E one? Nope, I have not. And as a matter of fact, when I redo this one, I'll probably sort it differently, so that I can do list, because it's easier for me to go through and rename things with
Would it-
list instead
Well,
of.
because I'm just trying to, because I can see an advantage to having documents separate from photos,
Mhm.
but documents fit family groups.
Right,
So if you have,
especially census and
if
stuff,
you had a
yeah.
family group, could you put a DOC folder inside the family? So you'd have your photos would be your basic, and then you'd have a DOC folder with the documents for that family.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Then they would all be under the same,
Some
Same
people, and I was
spot,
gonna
not
mention this
separate.
earlier, some people actually go through and for every family group, they have a series of folders that they copy and paste in each family group. And one of them's birth
Oh, sure.
certificates, one's immigration records, one's
Sure,
marriage
sure.
records, one's, and they put all the individual documents in those individual folders. I don't do that just because I don't wanna
it's a lot of
say,
folders.
okay, I'm looking for documents on so-and-so and have to go through every folder to find their
Right,
documents. I want to be able to find them by the person's
Although,
name.
when you do a search inside,
Yeah, you can search up here.
you can do a search, and it will search this folder and all the subfolders.
Yeah, yeah,
So, it won't go up a folder, but it will go down a folder.
right. See, I haven't done this one yet.
And one of the other things you could do, like Mark's got his family history folder with the families in there. He could, if he wanted to, he could take the family photo collection and
Duplicate it.
take the family photo file for the town family and stick it in the folder over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So then it would be a separate folder with, it's a subfolder
Right.
within that folder, just of the images.
Yep.
Photos, yeah.
And I haven't done that because, again, like I said before, I want to keep an original copy of every image so that I don't mess with it. And that's why I've kept my photos at this point separate, because if I need a copy of something, I can drag it somewhere else and, make a copy, drag it somewhere else and insert it where I need it.
But that would be another way to.
That would be a way.
To organize.
Make a duplicate copy, or folder even. You
Yeah.
can duplicate an entire folder and stick it in that family's group.
Yeah.
That would
And then
work.
that way the photos are with the other documents that you have.
True.